North America, there are some pretty Across North America, there are some pretty dire stats, like 2% of women-led ventures get VC funding. So within this landscape, we were tasked with understanding, okay, what are the barriers to these amazing women-led ventures actually raising investment? We at Spring, our sweet spot of where we can support entrepreneurs is really when they're getting ready to raise investment, often acting as the first check or the first real vote of confidence.
Before joining Spring's program, raising investment was a complete blur.
Raising investment has been a bit of a grind.
Before joining Spring's programming, raising investment had been really slow.
Honestly, it was a really intimidating process.
We like to call the industry often male, pale, and stale.
With such a tiny percentage of women-led ventures raising capital, we looked at our own work and our own track record across the past 11 years and realized that actually, of the winners of our programs, of those receiving investment, 62% of them were women. So it just felt so natural for us to really lean into that strength.
It was so exciting to learn that CELLECT Laboratories made it to top 5 at the Spring program.
I was thrilled to find out that we made it to the top 5.
We're so excited to be in the top 5.
Everyone selected onto our programs has an impact. They have a purpose behind what they're doing. So whether that is thinking about the social or the environmental effect of their business, by supporting them to raise capital and grow, we're not just growing a business, we're also growing their impact.
It's really rare to see investors prioritize both the financial and the societal returns, and to be a part of the Spring network and to get to know the investors and what they're looking for in a deal has been truly refreshing.
Spring's program has helped me feel a lot more prepared in the fundraising process through its online learning modules, as well as the in-person virtual sessions.
Winning the investment at the Spring program would essentially unlock the next level of development for us.
Receiving the cohort investment would be an amazing validation for our company.
Getting the cohort investment from Spring would allow us to get to our next big milestone that we've been working towards for years now, in getting Think to Switch on the market to families who could benefit from it most.
We would be able to continue working towards market approvals this year with the goal of launching our devices in early 2026.
Because of Spring, we feel set up for success.
It's given me a lot of tactical fundraising skills that I never would have had.
To see Spring helping women-led companies in a traditionally male-dominated space, it makes this whole process feel more inclusive, more supportive, and less intimidating.
We need to keep telling the story of these fantastic founders. We need to keep supporting them to grow. Ultimately, we need to keep investing. Rather than pausing in a moment of potential uncertainty, to help them with capital to take those risks, build those prototypes and launch, and ultimately make a successful Canadian story.
Hello, hello, and welcome to the finale of the Invest Together in Women-Led Impact program. That was such an inspiring way to start. I am super excited for all of you to meet those incredible top ventures. And this is the event to meet those top women-led ventures who are currently raising equity investment from across Canada. So the founders that you're going to hear from today are building businesses that combine profit with purpose and that have already gone through a robust due diligence journey with a cohort of angel investors through this program. And so this event is really a celebration of all of those top 5 ventures, as well as this key milestone on their investment raising journey. And it's just the start of that. I'm Caroline von Hirschberg. I'm co-CEO of Spring. And I have the absolute pleasure of co-hosting this event with the incredible Natalie Youssef. So Natalie and Andrea, who's behind the scenes today, are project managers of this program, and alongside our multifaceted, multifunctional team at Spring, are really the engine of what makes our work and our impact possible. So before I hand over to Natalie, I actually just want to give a virtual round of applause to these unsung heroes behind the scenes at this event who have been working on this program for months to date and really enable all of us to convene, to catalyze capital and support these impactful ventures to grow. Thanks, Natalie.
Thanks so much, Caro. And to everyone just joining us right now, a warm welcome to everyone. My name is Natalie Youssef, and I'm a project manager at Spring. And I've had the very great pleasure of working very closely alongside the amazing team behind this program, as well as the participating investors and the founders that have even made this program possible in the first place. So today's virtual finale really marks the culmination of weeks of learning, of collaboration, and meaningful conversations between impact-driven investors, as well as some of the most inspiring women-led companies from across Canada, including the program finalists that we'll be showcasing today. And so before we dive into our agenda today, we'd love to know who's in the room with us. Feel free to drop a very quick introduction in the chat, share your name, the organization or sector that you're representing, as well as where you're tuning in from. At Spring, we are very proud to be bringing together a community that spans coast to coast, all the way from Vancouver Island to Halifax. So whether or not you're deeply ingrained in the impact investing ecosystem or just starting out your journey, you're definitely in the right place, and very excited to have you here today. So in this program, we aim to advance gender equity by fostering a more inclusive flow of capital into the system, as well as by empowering investors to integrate a gender lens into their decision-making. But at its core, this work is really all about creating opportunities that honor the diversity of lived experiences and to challenge systemic barriers. It all begins with acknowledging the history of this land, the traditional territories of Indigenous peoples who have stewarded it for generations. And so recognizing the resilience and their wisdom reminds us of the importance of multiple perspectives in driving equity, and as well as fostering a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. And so as virtual participants, we are coming here today from many different places. I myself am tuning in from the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin Nation, also known as Ottawa. And as a team and a cohort of investors and founders from across the country, we extend our respect to all Indigenous peoples who have stewarded the land, the environment and its resources, and are committed to reconciliation and enhanced understanding. So excited to share the agenda for our finale today. We'll start off by setting the stage, giving you a bit of context about this program and the journey behind it. Then we'll take a look back and also celebrate some incredible Spring alumni. So you'll be hearing from and seeing some inspiring video spotlights from some of the past top ventures back in 2024, and hear how far they've come since receiving investment through the Spring cohort this past year. But the real spotlight for today that really belongs to our top 5 finalists in this year's program. They'll each take the main stage to pitch their groundbreaking ideas one last time, and then we'll be following that with some live Q&A where we'll get the chance to dive deeper and really get to know the teams behind these wonderful innovations. We'll then take a moment to share what's coming up next in the world of Spring, how you can stay connected with this growing community. Spoiler alert, there is a lot to be excited about, so make sure you're tuned in. And then behind the scenes, we've also had our investors deliberate for a lot of time after conducting some due diligence on these incredible companies. And so after that, the moment we've all been waiting for, we'll be announcing the People's Choice Awards. We'll actually be hearing from you, as well as the pitch that you'd like the most. And then we'll also be revealing the top venture that has been selected by the investor cohort for investment. So if you're interested in finding out who that is, make sure you stick around. This is definitely something that you do not want to miss.
Wonderful. So before we dive in, I just want to take a moment to share a bit about Spring. Some of you may be very familiar and embedded into our community. For others, maybe just embarking on your journey, as Natalie said. So at the core, we are all about building a better world through innovation. What does that really mean? How do we do that? By catalyzing capital towards impact-driven ventures and addressing gaps and barriers to doing so. So we do that through education, meeting both founders and investors where they're at on the impact and expertise continuum, Also building community and connections, because ultimately raising investment is a two-way process, and relationships and building trust are fundamental to this. And activating capital. So with events like these, often playing a pivotal role in the amount and the pace at which ventures are able to raise capital. And we'll hear a bit more about that in a minute. So at Spring, you'll hear the word impact a lot. As well as supporting impact-driven founders, those who are embedding a positive social or environmental outcomes within their business models, we're also committed to doing so ourselves at Spring. And for us, that includes being a certified B Corp, which means that we're always measuring and improving on how we operate, aligning our values throughout all that we do, and having a positive impact on the investors and founders that we support. And so these numbers are hot off the press because the team have been updating them the past week, and I have the pleasure of revealing our latest headlines. So after the past 11 plus years of Spring, we've trained over 1,100 investors, sparked over 2.8 million in direct investment, and catalyzed over 80 million in early stage impact investment across Canada. And noting that that's only from those who reply to our surveys. And so also I wanted to share that of the investment catalyzed, over 78% has gone to women-led ventures, even though we do run mixed cohorts a lot as well. So how do we do it? Well, through programs and events just like these. And ultimately, I'm looking at you because it's through your support and community. This is our 21st Invest Together program, previously named Impact Investment Challenge, when we originally launched them in 2019. They've spanned climate, health tech, as well as open impact themes. They've been local, regional, and national. And also we've had those cohorts dedicated towards women and non-binary entrepreneurs. So before we hear from this year's top founders, we thought it'd be fun to catch up with a few of the top founders from the previous year, all about their experience and what the journey looks like after today.
So women need access to capital to be able to grow their business. Mentoring programs are wonderful, but what we really need is access to capital, and that's what Spring brings. Our platform generates a really wide range of low carbon options that are customized to a company's operations. And along with that, we tell them how much it's going to cost them up front, what is the potential cost savings and emission savings, and the payback period, so companies can make the right decisions to cut carbon faster and save costs. Life without the Spring program over the past year would have been a lot more challenging. Entrepreneurship is hard, and there's always ups and downs. And the relationships that we've been able to build through the Spring program has really helped to get us through.
Realizing the impacts that fashion has on the planet, that got me and Roya as well very interested in materials, because the impact is so great from materials. And that led us to biodesign, which is bringing biology and science together with like the creative and design fields.
So coming from that, being woman in STEM, operating as designers made it a lot more challenging.
There's a lot of times where you feel doubted for a reason that we can't put our finger on. What is it that we're doing wrong? We're bringing everything we can to the table. We can see how hard we're working, how much validation we have behind us, all the things that we've achieved already. Yeah, not being taken as seriously as we think we should be is a very common experience.
Spring has helped us so much. Spring has been by far the best program Voxel has participated. They have helped us not just in the fundraising aspect, which we raised a lot of money with the Spring, but also on the coaching and really highlighting the impact has opened so many doors after the Spring program. Voxel is creating human-like tissue models as a platform for the drug development process to screen which drug candidates should be going to clinical trials. As a startup, I think we need help really on the fundraising aspect. Voxel is 60% women, have a lot of immigrants too, and what we see, especially women-led companies have been highly underfunded throughout the years. Voxel has actually become a much better company after going through the Spring program.
Spring really cares about impact, cares about diversity, cares about inclusion, and it's willing to help you to build an impact company.
At BDDs, we developed groundbreaking water technologies, and we started solving the microplastic problem. They end in rivers, oceans, and everywhere. But we are going to change that. If you see the statistics, the way that the funds are distributed, it's a very low percentage for women, around 2%. If you look deeper on the majority of these 2%, that is very little already, it's for white women. It's difficult to imagine that it is without Spring, because the investment that they put right at the beginning of our first round was crucial to get visibility and get other investors.
Spring has been a huge part of our journey since right after we founded. We won their Impact Investor Challenge, which came with a $100,000 investment that kicked off our pre-seed raise. And they've supported us in all kinds of ways with mentorship, with connections. Open Ocean Robotics produces solar-powered autonomous boats, uncrewed surface vehicles, to help us better understand and monitor our oceans, to protect them as well as to grow ocean industries sustainably. Females are still underrepresented, especially when we look at robotics, the ocean ecosystem. Women still historically raise less money from venture capital than men do. If we hadn't participated in Spring's Investor Challenge, we definitely would not be so far ahead in our journey. And, you know, we've come a long way in 5 years.
Amazing. Awesome. Okay, so moving into a bit of an overview about the program itself. So this might feel like the beginning of the program to much of our audience, but in fact, our team has actually been working on this since last October when the application period first started. So we received around 130 company applications, then reviewed by our selection committee, and then we've invited 15 amazing founders to join our program in January of this year. And so this program is dedicated to supporting women and non-binary founders, helping them navigate the unique challenges of raising funds and building purpose-driven businesses. The incredible investors in this cohort have also been a crucial part of this journey. So they've offered support, they've shared their own expertise based on their respective backgrounds, and they're also learning alongside the founders about various topics throughout the program in these weekly sessions, including impact measurement, due diligence, deal terms, and more. And so without the investors, they've definitely played a key role in determining which top venture will be receiving investment today, which will be announced today as well. And so over the past 9 weeks, these incredible founders, as I mentioned, they've been on a transformative journey. It all began back in February with our investment readiness catalyst. And since then, they've continued to grow, culminating in a rigorous due diligence process for our top 5 finalists. And so while today's event and finale is on the top 5, we also do want to take a moment to recognize all the 15 founders who have joined us today on this journey. Each of these founders have poured their heart into this experience, and regardless of who is selected at the end of the day as the top venture, they're all leaving with such powerful tools, some real momentum, and most notably, a very supportive community behind them as well.
Mm-hmm. So true. And I think the videos that we've just seen were testament to that. It's like, this is a milestone on the journey. We're looking forward to supporting all 15 of those ventures ongoing in various different ways. And I had the pleasure of being on the selection committee and was just blown away by the quality, the diversity of the cohort from across Canada. And it's really also intriguing to see how the top 5 that emerged are all in health tech space and many in femtech, which was not prescribed. That's just organically happened through this year's intake. So I'm looking forward to hearing more from them. But I also want to acknowledge, I mean, Natalie talked through the multiple journeys, the multiple people involved in this program to date. And it takes a lot. It requires vision, trust, investment from people like ICID. So ICID's Women's Entrepreneurship Strategy, which is coming to the end or just come to the end of its 2-year journey, enabled the funding of the Women and Non-Binary Impact Network for venture capital, a mouthful. WinVC is the term for a collaboration across 7 ecosystem organizations. So you'll see their logos up there, but what we've been doing is we've been coming together and trying to create a more connected approach to supporting ventures to become investment ready and more investors to participate in early stage gender lens investing. So it absolutely takes a village and a collaborative ecosystem to do this work and to move each founder and investor towards that next milestone, aha moment, or investment. So I want to thank all involved in the WinVC project in making this possible. And then in addition, I also wanted to recognize the vision and dedication, first of our champions at NRC IRAP. They saw the need to address gaps in support for innovative women-led ventures across Canada. And they've also been supporting us across the past 2, in fact, more than 2 years, allowing us to go deeper and provide expert, tailored advisory to the founders participating in our programs. Throughout our work, we lean on those more intelligent than us, those with domain expertise, really to ensure that the founders and funders and investors that we're working with have the latest insight and expertise as they go on this journey. And so the other partners on this slide are also providing just that. And we wholeheartedly recommend each of them as we work with them firsthand. So from DLA Piper for the expertise you share with the investor cohort, Inc. for providing just incredibly accessible legal counsel for founders navigating the legal side of their raise, Tandem Innovation Group supporting founders to build robust financials for their data rooms and frankly for their business, Carl Jung Financial Services, our long-standing champions, as well as our insurance provider. And we're happy to have Morgan Daniel Slager, LLP, as a new partner for 2025. And last but not least, MNP not only navigates our books, but has also been a partner and a champion from the early days. And they're supporting the top 5 ventures with office hours. So we have the pleasure of welcoming Pierce Johnston, a partner private enterprise at MNP. Hello, hello. How are you doing?
Hey everyone. How's it going? Exciting. I'll just give everyone kind of a quick overview here. My name is Pierce Johnston. I'm a partner with MNP's private enterprise here team in Vancouver. I myself focus on startup and tech companies, and I just wanted to give a quick, huge thank you to Spring and the entire team here for their hard work supporting another excellent cohort through the programming. Congrats to all the finalists that have made it this far. Any of the participants in the program to date, you would have gotten some valuable insight into your businesses. Regardless of the rest of the afternoon, this is a huge accomplishment for everyone involved. MNP's been partnered with Spring for a number of years now. And we feel quite lucky to work with an organization that supports, female and non-binary entrepreneurs across Canada through the early stages of their companies' lives, while also allowing for investors who may not have the opportunity to invest in these types of businesses, that early stage startup access. The accessibility here for everyone involved can't be understated, especially as we know early stage startup financing in Vancouver and across the country can be difficult to find. On top of all this, I think that you can see the sense of community around the organization in the startup space, and that's something to be very proud of. We would have just seen some of the impact these opportunities have given other founders, and it's exciting to see where this year's group ends up in a year's time. And then on top of the accessibility, the impact focus of the organization is something we align with very directly. We see so much of the focus of angel and early stage investment being profits and multiples. So it's great to align with an organization that considers impact as part of that investment process. Of course, female-led companies with a focus on women's health this year is a cause that myself and MNP are very proud to support. Once again, just to kind of wrap it up, really appreciate the opportunity to support Spring and the broader ecosystem. Thanks again to the team for another great cohort, and good luck to the finalists. I can't wait to hear your pitches this afternoon.
Wow, I appreciate all you just shared, Pierce. That was an incredible download. And I just would love, if you don't mind spending an extra minute, but really understanding sort of from MNP's vantage point, like provincially, but also nationally, anything in the ecosystem that you're seeing, and in terms of why it's especially important to support this early stage of ventures as they're setting out on their first few investment raises.
Yeah, I think it's been talked about a bit in some of the videos. It's tough to get that first check, right? So, whether it's getting that due diligence from however many angel investors are involved in these kind of processes to getting that first check, that first vote of confidence, I think that's so important. Sometimes getting that first little bit of kind of foot in the door with respect to breaking out into the market in whatever way you need to, that, $100,000, $200,000 check, while it's not, the $1 million Series A that you're looking for, it often gets you close enough there where you might feel, a little bit more prepared.
Mm-hmm. And any tips? So I'm putting you on the spot here, but as a lot of these entrepreneurs have been getting their data rooms robust and investment ready, if you like, as you work with early stage founders, any tips that you're seeing in terms of gaps that they often have, or things that people may not appreciate that they need to be considering as they're building out their financials for success?
Yeah, that's a great question, and don't worry about putting me on the spot. I think one of the things that I always try to tell early stage startup founders, especially when it comes to work that I do with them, is don't be shy. I think sometimes it's scary to approach a law firm or an accounting firm, but some of the stuff that I'll see a year or two down the road when someone's looking for that Series A is you talk about the data room and sometimes it's a mess, or you talk about the cap table and sometimes that's a bit of an unusual situation. So, don't be shy. Advisors are here to help you, and sometimes it's easier to get stuff cleaned up on day one or plan properly than it is to figure stuff out 2 or 3 years down the road when you have the urgent deadline of a check coming in the door. Okay, wonderful. Well, I'm sure many will be knocking on your door now. So thank you so much for sharing and for being part of this. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Piers.
Thank you.
Amazing. I'd also like to take a moment to extend our thanks to some of the coaches and incredible guest speakers who've really generously shared their time and expertise and energy throughout this program. You can see some of their photos over here. And just we wanted to mention how much more than just supporters they've been throughout this process. They've been such active collaborators, whether it being with the founders or the investors, really just creating that space for everyone to learn, grow, and thrive together. So very, very big thank you again for all of the impact that you've created so far in this program. And so before we dive into today's finalist pitches, we also wanted to highlight last year's Women-Led Top Venture, Sydney Robinson, the CEO and co-founder of Vessel Prosthetics. Vessel is leading the way in next-generation prosthetics for amputees. They have a flagship product known as the Isoform, which is an automatically adjusting socket that adapts to the body's natural dynamic changes. So that gets to deliver comfort, confidence, and freedom throughout the daily life of amputees. And so Sydney and her team actually secured investment through last year's program in 2024. And since then, they've made such incredible progress in advancing the Isoform product, as well as just throughout their fundraising journey in general. So would love to just take a moment to hear from Sydney about her journey and some of the exciting progress behind the scenes with the support of the Spring community.
We're socket fit. The fit between an amputee's leg and their prosthetic leg is the biggest problem in prosthetics today. So for our flagship product, my team of engineers and prosthetic leaders have developed an automatically adjusting solution, empowering people with leg amputations to lead healthier, more comfortable lives. We all know that women-led companies receive far less funding, both angel and venture capital investment, than our male counterparts. In 2024, we won the Spring Women-Led Impact Investor Challenge. Winning this challenge drastically increased the pace at which we were able to close our pre-seed fundraise. Where the entire fundraising process takes months sometimes, we were able to go through it in just a few short weeks, which allowed us to practice a lot of those question and answer situations that we were going to experience with other investors. So with Spring's backing, that made us much more attractive for future follow-on investment.
Amazing. So, I mean, all of these founders have said, Spring supported this had this ripple effect, which is absolutely what this program, what this event hopes to catalyze. But I also hope that you've come across a few new ventures and new founders through these videos, because I know that they're also raising and they're still looking for support for clients, customers, advisors. So hopefully you've been inspired by a few of the ventures that you've just been introduced to. And lastly, promise, they weren't the only 2024 top 5 venture that secured funding. Scotiaderm were also invested in by the cohort. So they were actually not the top venture, but testament to the opportunity that the program gives to build meaningful relationships between the founders and the investor cohort, and for ventures to really shine through that due diligence process. it meant that Scotiabank were able to also secure investment from the same investors. So let's just hear it quickly from Johanna.
We have developed a line of topical products that deal with moisture-associated skin damage. This is damage caused by exposure to urine, feces, sweat, and chafing. It is a hidden and stigmatized issue, and it's enormous. I can tell you that some of the venture capitalists I've spoken to, they say, oh, well, funding from women and impact companies, that's not real investment. I'm going, it's pretty real to me. It's money in the bank, and it's helping me to obtain my objectives. But there's still a view out there that funding for women isn't quite real. Maybe we're just different as opposed to not the same, right? And therefore less valuable. The Spring is one of the few that I think is shedding light, direct light on the problem, and they're helping to change the narrative. The Spring gave me confidence to take more risk and gave me the resources to take more risks. It helped, and one thing leads to another, and now we've got like a real nice movement going forward. A lot's happening, and the company is in a very, very different place than it was 2 years ago.
Amazing. It's truly, I love seeing these videos all the way from our first top venture back in 2019, being Open Ocean Robotics, till Scotia Durham back in 2024. It's truly inspiring just seeing all of the alumni continuing to grow and secure funding for the incredible solutions that they're bringing to life. So once again, as Kara mentioned, if you're in the audience and haven't been following their journeys of these wonderful companies yet, now is definitely the perfect time to start. There's so much exciting progress ahead, happening behind the scenes as well. And so now it's time for the main segment of today's event, which is the pitches. So our brilliant top 5 founders have really poured their passion, time, and energy into refining their ventures and meeting with the investor cohort over the past several weeks. So today they are here to share their mission with a wider Spring community one last time, and to also engage in some Q&A so we can get to know the teams and the faces behind these innovations.
Absolutely. So the format is we'll be watching a 5-minute pre-recorded pitch for each venture, which has really given them the spaciousness to turn up and enjoy today. And then we'll have 5 minutes of questions live with each founder. So in this order, Maman Biomedical, followed by L, then Possibility Neurotechnologies, Select Laboratories, and Fem Therapeutics. And you also have the chance to vote for your favorite pitch in the People's Choice Award. So once the pitches are all completed, you can cast your vote, so pay close attention. First up is Maman Biomedical, founded and led by Lakshmi Raghunanan. And Maman Biomedical eliminates the pain and inconvenience of repeated fertility treatments by replacing injections with an innovative self-administered drug delivery system. So they use microneedle patches to ensure consistent dosage, monitoring, and minimal impact on lifestyle. And I'll let them explain more eloquently all about it in their pitch video.
Hi, I'm Dr. Lakshmi Raghunanan, CEO and founder of Maman Biomedical, and I'm 1 in 6. 1 in 6 women around the world who experience infertility. But the current standard of care for infertility is highly burdensome. My own treatment cycle required 20 injections in 13 days. These were painful, inconvenient, and downright traumatizing, especially knowing that a mistake with any single one of those injections, those self-administered injections, by the way, could have resulted in complete cycle failure, lost money, lost time, all of those injections, all of those excessive hormones, all for nothing. At Maman Biomedical, we're developing Maman Patch to eliminate the need for these daily injections. Think hormone contraceptive and nicotine patches. But Maman Patch isn't just another patch. It's our proprietary microneedle technology, which gently penetrates the upper layers of the skin and slowly dissolves to tunably release large molecule drugs directly into the body, something that traditional transdermal patches cannot do. But that's not all. Maman Patch comprises our sustained drug delivery, drug release, and encapsulation technologies, which allow us to tunably deliver and release these molecules when and how we want them to, ensuring that we're not flooding the body with over 2,000 excess hormone levels that the current standard of care utilizes on a regular basis. We're also employing biomarker sensing technologies into Mom and Patch to provide a truly needle-free experience by eliminating the need to return to the clinic for daily blood draws. Our biomarker sensing technologies provide real-time hormonal tracking levels, which are captured with wireless technologies in real time and sent directly to the doctors, where they monitor and provide patient feedback. We're starting within the fertility treatment landscape because no one else is. And our competitors include indirect competitors, other medical device manufacturers working on needle-free technologies. There's many of them working on many different types of technologies, but none of them are addressing the core issues of hormone treatment experience itself, giving us a unique position within the fertility space, not just within fertility though, but within sustained release and embedded sensing technologies. The market opportunity is huge. Around the world, we spend $25 billion on fertility drug medication alone. In North America, that's $4.5 billion. And based on our ongoing market research, which shows a 20% willingness by existing users to pay for a needle-free alternative, we expect to capture $1 billion per year. Now, our beachhead market will comprise those Canadian fertility clinics whose primary differentiators are the patient experience. And that's where we'll enter into the market segment, our markets first. We're a drug-led medical device, which means that our go-to-market is dependent upon regulatory approval. But once we have that, through our partnerships with our beachhead clinics, we'll establish early product traction. Once we've demonstrated product market fit, we will then scale through North America and globally with the help of sales and distribution channel partners to take our product into the hands of women around the world. Along the way, there's opportunities to generate revenue through licensing of our platform technology to other areas of indication outside of our own core expertise, such as in oncology. Mom and Patch will not disrupt the current supply model used for fertility medication. Currently, doctors prescribe, patient pay out of pocket at the pharmacies. We're going to market directly to the patient as well as to the doctors so that the patients go to their doctors and say, I want a needle-free alternative, or the doctors ask their patient, have you heard of the needle-free alternative? We're a strong team poised for execution led by myself, a PhD in material science with over 13 years of experience in this space and 5 granted patents to date. We've got a strong advisory network supporting our blind spots, including our angel investor, fertility experts in this space. We know what needs to be done, and we're working aggressively to deliver. Already, we filed our IP, secured funding, and are in discussion with key manufacturing and clinical strategics. We're currently fundraising $3 million over 2 tranches for a 24-month runway to put our drugs into our patches and establish early phase proof of feasibility and safety in early small animals. Where Mom and Biomedical is transforming the future of fertility for women like myself, from 20 injections in 13 days to this, no more needles. Thank you.
Amazing. Welcome, Lakshmi.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And that last picture of the injections versus the 3 patches is so incredibly powerful. Such a game-changing experience that you're creating for those going through fertility treatments. If you don't mind, I'd love to ask you a few questions and so we can take it from there.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So on the technology, I'm fascinated. You have this microneedle drug delivery system, which is very different from the traditional injections. Can you just take your time to explain a bit more about how your technology works, and also why are you uniquely positioned to transfer? Like, why is it a game changer in this fertility treatment market?
All right, so more about the technology. Current standard of care requires all of these injections because the drugs themselves aren't stable in the body for long periods of time. In scientific terms, they have a half-life of only 3 hours. And so if we need a drug to last 24 hours, we need every 3 hours, the quantity is going to decrease by 50%. And so the maths work out to you need over 2,000% of that drug above a certain threshold in order to make sure that it's always present above that threshold. That's why in the current fertility treatment, you administer an injection every single day, every 24 hours. And these subcutaneous injections, they're painful, they're tedious, they have to be timed, and correct dosage, and all of these limitations that impact and affect our lifestyle. Now, with our patch, we're presenting the microneedle patches, small and painless enough to deliver directly into the skin. But we're also using encapsulation technologies that allow us to deliver even less hormone drugs. So we don't need that 2,000% of hormones. We're delivering just enough to maintain that that threshold above that amount above the threshold. And so the impact is less hormones being administered above to maintain treatment efficacy, all painlessly. I
Thank
think
you.
that's, yeah.
Yeah, no, that was incredible and very digestible as well. But you're saying that no one is using this in hormone treatment, let alone fertility space, which is fascinating in terms. So I'd love to kind of understand a bit more about that, how you're setting yourself apart in the market. And you mentioned several ways in which you were approaching that.
Yeah, so yeah, no one else is doing this in hormone therapy. There's actually microneedle technology is a brand new technology. There's lots of research out there. No one has been able to get it to commercialization yet, and those are the barriers associated with these microneedle themselves. As a materials scientist, I understand the materials chemistry and physics really well, and that enables me to really see the way materials function, how these hormones interact with these needles, the properties that we need, and engineer from where we need to be to what product features we need to have in order to present the desirable properties. So that's from a materials perspective, how we're getting there.
Fantastic. You also mentioned you're sort of piggybacking on existing supply channels, which I thought was really smart. And so as you work towards bringing this to market, I'd love to understand how you're approaching different regulatory pathways, considerations across North America.
Yeah, we're a drug-led medical device, so we know that our regulatory pathway it's called a 505(b)(2). Now, technical terms, what that means is we're using drugs that are already commercially available, and so we can accelerate pathway through regulatory by just maintaining equivalency, demonstrate to these regulatory bodies that our patches will deliver these drugs and at the hormone levels consistent and comparable to the current standard of care, and we'd get that check mark from a regulatory point of view. In order to enable this, we, number one, have to make sure that we're not fundamentally changing the nature of these drugs. And that's where my background comes in, again, materials chemistry. And so we're designing with that in mind, knowing that we can change the state of these molecules, but not their chemical natures. Otherwise, we're creating something entirely new, which makes us a pharmaceutical and not a drug device, right? So that's one. And then number two, we've identified opportunities that we can start de-risking now. And so I've spoken about patch, but we also have Mom and Port, which is our needle-free technology that allows us to get to market sooner as a straightforward medical device. All it does, it doesn't do all the sexiness that patch does, but it eliminates the pain. It's a microneedle device that eliminates the need for the actual injections. And that allows intradermal drug delivery enough that we can start de-risking from a regulatory perspective.
Amazing. And also, I imagine getting in those proof points, that revenue sooner, de-risking.
Of course.
One approach.
Oh yeah, definitely. We're very excited because with a shorter regulatory timeline, that means that Port gets to market in 2 years, and so we're excited. To have a product that we'd be able to put into the hands of women sooner rather than later.
And perfect segue into my last question, actually. So I was going to ask, what excites you most about what's next for you?
Oh, exactly that. We're excited to build Patch and to see the impact that it can have on so many women's lives. But more than that is the opportunity to deliver now. It hits my heart when I have this, when women ask me how long till I can get my hands on this, and I have to say, well, 5 years away. But then we realize that we can actually do port in less than 24 months, and it looks something like this. So it's cool. We're at the prototype stage, and we can take this to market pretty quickly. We can take, so you see the micro needles there, and this actually attaches onto the needles, your current conventional needles, and eliminates the need for an actual syringe, and we deliver drugs through there. This we can get to market really quickly, shorter FDA path, and we're excited that women can, start going through fertility treatment pain-free.
Love the live demo and prototype, and I'm sure all of us have either been through, know someone who's been through this journey. So I can really relate to how needed, how important, how impactful it will be. So huge thank you for being part of this journey, and look forward to supporting you ongoing, even after today.
Thank you so much, Caroline.
Take care. Over to you, Natalie.
Thanks, Caro, and thanks, Lakshmi, for that amazing Q&A and pitch. Next up, we have LMD. L, which is founded and led by Dr. Jennifer Johnston, is focused on the growing demand for non-hormonal, user-controlled contraception with the Beta Ring. So the Beta Ring is a vaginal ring that provides women with a safe, effective, and user-friendly method to manage their reproductive health. So would love to take a closer look at L's pitch video before jumping into Q&A.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. In 2021, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. It turns out my long-term use of hormonal contraception likely increased my risk for developing the disease. I'm Jennifer Johnston, family physician and founder of LMD Biotechnologies, a company dedicated to empowering women to access safe, reliable contraception without the use of hormones. Evolving research shows hormonal birth control is linked to a staggering list of downstream effects, both short and long-term. These range from nutrient deficiency and loss of libido to stroke, breast cancer, autoimmune disease, depression, and even suicide. At the time of my diagnosis, I had 4 young kids and found myself in the market for contraception once again. But with hormones off the table, my options were limited. Vasectomies and tubal ligation are effective, but permanent, and in Nova Scotia, the wait time is in the realm of years. The copper IUD causes heavier, more painful periods, which is a non-starter for many women, and condoms are actually only effective 86% of the time with typical use. That's why we started developing the Beta Ring. It's a once-monthly, non-hormonal vaginal ring that uses the proven spermicidal effect of copper, is user-controlled, and expected to be highly effective. Because I know I'm not the only one with this problem. Research suggests that women around the world are 6 times more likely to be satisfied with non-hormonal options, many citing health concerns as a primary reason. And my patients and colleagues agree. We need more options. Taking a look at the global market, we know it's growing and expected to approach $50 billion by 2030. North America has the largest share of that, and we plan to start there. But beyond the measurable market, we want to expand to low and middle income countries where the need for contraception is greatest. So far, we've shown copper is moving into the sheep uterus in higher concentrations with our ring compared to the low-dose IUD. We are currently optimizing for efficacy and vaginal safety and plan to start our first human trial within the year. We can get our cost to manufacture down to $5 per ring and plan to sell for a target price in line with current options today. We plan to leverage government and insurance companies to ensure robust coverage and optimize accessibility. And I'm excited to do this with our small but mighty team of dedicated domain experts. In addition to this team, we're also working with the Contraception Research Branch at the NIH, who've been overwhelmingly supportive. We're now raising $1 million to allow us to complete our first in-human trial and begin planning our pivotal study needed to enter the Canadian market. We currently have $550,000 of this soft-circled through a mix of dilutive and non-dilutive funding. I'm building this device because I've lived the consequences of limited contraceptive options, not just as a physician, but as a woman. MS is a life-altering neurodegenerative disease, and in my case, it may have been triggered by years of hormonal birth control. As a mother of 4, including 3 daughters, I often ask myself, what kind of birth control would I want for them? Something safe, something effective, and something that doesn't force them to choose between preventing pregnancy and protecting their health. We're developing an option that puts health, comfort, and autonomy first. The potential impact is significant. For every 10 women who switch from hormonal methods to our ring, we could prevent 1 woman from getting depression. And for every 200, we could prevent a case of breast cancer. And beyond that, we'd have fewer blood clots, fewer autoimmune conditions, and more women feeling in control without compromising their well-being. Globally, over 250 million women still have an unmet need for contraception. Our goal is to change that. We know that when women have access to methods that fit their lives, maternal and child health improves, education and economic opportunities grow, and lives are saved. That's why we're also building a buy one, donate one model to serve women in underserved communities too, because effective birth control should be a right, not a privilege. Melinda Gates has said that contraception is the greatest life-saving, women-empowering, poverty-reducing innovation ever created. But it has to be safe. It's time to invest in our sisters, our wives, our daughters, and in all the women and girls around the world who deserve better. Thank you.
Amazing. Welcome, Jennifer. Really excited to have you here.
Well, thank you so much.
And fantastic pitch as usual. Really appreciate you sharing your personal story as well. So I'm just excited to dive into a few questions, kind of sharing more of your vision of Elle with the wider community here today. And to kick off our Q&A, and you kind of touched on this in your pitch video as well, but would love to hear from you too. So for those that are less familiar with the contraception space, could you tell us more about this gap that you're addressing specifically in Canada, North America, or beyond as well, and why access to non-hormonal user-controlled options is such an important issue today? I'd love to start off with that.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, there are millions of women around the world who rely on birth control, but the options available today often really come with a lot of compromises. So as I mentioned in the video, hormones have a lot of serious side effects. Copper IUDs often cause heavier and more painful periods and require invasive procedures, and surgery is permanent, while things like condoms and other barriers are less effective with typical use and often very inconvenient and can be forgotten easily. So globally, almost 1 billion people are using contraception, but a huge portion of them discontinue their method because of side effects or discomfort. So there really remains a massive gap for non-hormonal user-friendly options that are also accessible in underserved areas where healthcare is limited. So I think we need better choices, ones that prioritize safety, comfort, and control over our own reproductive health.
Thank you. And it's also so great to see how the Better Ring that you're currently developing is also such a fresh take on contraception, just based on the gap that you're just speaking to as well. So just switching gears into the solution itself and the ring itself, could you walk us through how it works and what makes it a more effective, safe option compared to some of the traditional methods that you touched on as well in the video?
Yeah, so the Better Ring, hopefully you can kind of see it here, is a once monthly user-controlled copper vaginal ring. It's designed to provide highly effective birth control, but without the need for hormones or procedures. So we insert the ring high in the vagina, and it works by releasing copper ions, which then create a hostile environment in the uterus that prevents fertilization. So it's also intended to be used as a discrete emergency contraceptive, which would mean that we're offering the first user-controlled dual indication device of its kind.
Amazing. And then in terms of regulatory pathways, so this is considered to be a medical device, correct?
That's right.
And so could you walk us through that as well, and how that's like in Canada and in the US, for instance?
Yeah, so we're a device in Canada, but a drug in the US, which means that our path through regulatory is going to be far faster in Canada. And it also means gives us a little bit of edge compared to our American counterparts who are going straight to the FDA every time. This basically gives us a 3 or more year head start.
Awesome. And then, recently there's been a lot of great traction with Elle, and very curious to know what is your vision for growth, whether that being expanding some new product offerings or entering new markets. Where do you see Elle making its biggest impact next?
So, a few things. In the near term, we plan to grow our team, bringing on experts who have successfully launched contraceptive devices in Canada and internationally. We're also working on our clinical partnerships. So, folks like Oregon Health and Science University, who do a lot of non-hormonal research, as well as the NIH, Hoag Hospital, just to make sure that our clinical studies are going to be efficient and well executed. And then once we get through Canada and the US, we'll probably be targeting some different specific countries in the EU, but we also want to work on a WHO approval so that we can get access for those low and middle income countries in sub-Saharan Africa where the need is the greatest. And then beyond that, post-market, we hope to get over-the-counter coverage, which would sort of basically we would leverage the existing copper safety data from the IUD, which is sort of like decades of safety data. And that over-the-counter designation would not only remove access barriers, but also unlock potential for that emergency contraceptive use, which is an urgent need for many women around the world.
Thanks for sharing. And, I'd love to also just give some space for you to share anything that you'd love to share with the audience today, whether it being about Elle's journey, your own mission, or what's next, whether it being the over-the-counter solution or whatnot, anything that you'd like to share with the audience.
I guess what I'm really excited about seeing is getting this to the Canadian market, which we think we can do in a couple of years, because my main goal is to have something that my own daughters can use. And then beyond that, I want to be able to offer something for my patients, something better, because they have been asking for many years. My ultimate kind of goal, dream, if you will, is to have big jars of these rings available for free in every clinic, kind of like you see condoms today. Not because of the product itself, but sort of to help, reshape what reproductive autonomy can look like for everyone.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Jennifer. It's been a real pleasure learning more about your journey and having you in the program, and just learning more about the impact that you're creating with the Better Ring as well. So thank you once again. We're excited to see where Elle goes from here.
Just so inspired by these incredible founders and their ventures. And we have a third. So next up is Possibility Neurotechnologies, and that's co-led by Dion Kelly and Erica Floriani. And they are facilitating access, autonomy, and dignity for people with severe physical and communication disabilities through Think to Switch, which is a brain-computer interface. And I'm fascinated to hear how it's designed to translate brain signals into commands that can control external devices. So let's hear more.
I'm Dion Kelly, co-founder and CEO of Possibility Neurotechnologies, where we're empowering interaction through thought. For millions of people with severe disabilities, the ability to turn on a light, play with a toy, or communicate a need is not a given. It's a basic human right that's still out of reach. The United Nations Conventions on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities recognizes access to assistive technologies at an affordable cost is a fundamental human right. Yet today, up to 98% of those who need assistive technology don't have access, with children and people with severe disabilities facing the greatest barriers. Assistive technology isn't just a tool, it's a lifeline. Yet most solutions are too expensive, too complex, or too limited, making them inaccessible for many. Access can mean the difference between a child getting an education, an adult joining the workforce, or someone maintaining their independence. Brain-computer interfaces offer hope, enabling control without movement or speech. but after more than 60 years, they're still largely stuck in research labs due to their complexity. Think to Switch transforms this landscape. Just like Siri responds to voice commands, Think to Switch responds to thought commands, translating brain activity into real-world actions. The user wears a brain-sensing headset that captures brain signals. Then, they use our app to train a specific mental command, like imagining a hand movement or focusing on a thought. Once learned, that mental command can be used to control anything that's plugged into a smart switch: lights, toys, appliances, even communication tools or entertainment systems. It's completely hands-free, easy to set up, and designed to be affordable. Think to Switch was developed through a clinical research program at the University of Calgary and the Alberta Children's Hospital for children with severe cerebral palsy. Since then, we've logged over 1,000 hours of real-world use with more than 50 families, helping kids connect, play, and participate in everyday moments. We've received more than $4 million in research funding and have collaborated with top institutions in Canada, the US, and Australia to ensure that Think to Switch is designed with users, not just for them. One parent told us, "It's a light at the end of the tunnel." And for many of these families, that light is the first they've seen. Existing assistive technologies aren't designed for everyone. Switches, eye gaze, and voice control all rely on precise movement or speech, making them inaccessible for many. Eye gaze, the current gold standard, costs thousands of dollars and can take over a year to access through insurance. Think to Switch eliminates these barriers, requiring no movement, speech, or complex setup, at a fraction of the cost of eye gaze, making it the most accessible, affordable, and reliable assistive technology today. 550 million people worldwide live with neurological conditions that impair interaction, but only 2% ever get assistive support. That's not a gap, that's a crisis. We're starting with a focused population, 645,000 children and adults in Canada and the US with severe early onset speech and movement disorders who have never been able to interact independently. But our platform is built to scale, reaching those with ALS, brain injuries, and degenerative conditions across healthcare and consumer markets. And unlike others, our direct-to-family model bypasses reimbursement delays, making us faster, more accessible, and globally scalable. Our initial target is parents in Canada and the US raising children with severe speech and movement disorders, who are highly motivated and actively seeking solutions. At an average cost of just $35 a month based on a tiered subscription, with just 35% market capture, we project over $95 million in annual recurring revenue from the software alone. We're a multidisciplinary team that built the world's largest clinical pediatric brain-computer interface program. With deep domain expertise in neuroscience, engineering, and clinical care, and a track record of securing millions in grants and multiple leadership awards, we're uniquely positioned to bring Think to Switch to market and transform lives at scale. Our mission is to make brain-controlled assistive tech truly accessible. No insurance, no regulatory delays, just faster, scalable impact. We're raising $400,000 on a SAFE to scale our pilot, validate pricing, and generate early revenue. This includes refining the mobile app, launching 500 pre-orders in Q3, and hiring 2 developers. It's a clear path to revenue and a strong foundation for our seed round in early 2026. We'd love for you to join our efforts to make sure that everybody has the equal opportunity to connect, communicate, and thrive.
Amazing. Hi, Erica and Dion. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you, Caroline?
Good.
Thank you.
I just want to first say I really appreciate and I'm inspired by your focus on accessibility, but also the user design piece, you know, working with, I'm sure it's over 50 families now, but just your absolute focus on that fundamental within your process. So hats off to you for that. I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind. And so would love to dive in first a bit about the functionality of what you're developing. So for me, this is very much, you're translating science fiction into something tangible. So it's an incredible concept. Can you walk us through how the system works, how it translates brain signals even into commands, and also sort of what kind of devices it can control, what sort of real life practical experiences that can enable?
Sure, I can
go ahead and take this one. So the Think to Switch, as was mentioned in our pitch, is the first commercially available brain-computer interface device. And how it works is we have our application, which runs on mobile devices right now, and you can connect that to a brain sensing headset, like this headband right here, that reads your electrical brain signals. That gets streamed to our application, which does some signal processing and machine learning to detect different patterns in your brain signals. And the user will be guided using our app to train or calibrate a specific mental command. And this is some kind of imagination or visualization that they do repeatedly to actually activate the system. And as they're training it, the computer, the processing underneath, will learn these patterns that are happening in the brain signals. And once that's done, then the user can go ahead and control different outputs. And our app lets you connect a variety of different outputs. Right now, we're focused on things like communication. So you can assign different words like yes or no or hello, up to your choice. And you can also connect physical devices through things like smart home hubs like the Apple HomeKit or Google Home. So you can control a smart plug and turn on a socket using just this mental command. Think about your command and it will tell the device to go turn on. And in the future, we hope to expand this to a lot more outputs and offerings. These are some of the main ones that have been championed by our early users.
Okay, so they've had a say in what might be most useful at the start.
Yes, yeah, that's been a big part of our discussions with our users.
Yeah, this is honestly mind-blowing. Dion, was there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize the point that you just made about our users having input. So we basically see ourselves as like a conduit for our users. They tell us what they want and we do it because they are the ones who know best. This is their lived experience. And there's a saying in the assistive technology world, which is nothing about us without us. Nothing about us without us. And so that's what we really think about all the time to make sure that we are designing these solutions for the people who are going to be using them.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. Brilliant. And you shared about alternative approaches to tackling the problem. So switches, eye gazes, and voice control. So I'd love to understand a bit more about how Think to Switch, how your work is uniquely positioned against and in comparison to those alternatives, and sort of whether there are any other people working on something similar to yourselves.
Yeah, so in terms of some of the alternatives that I outlined, one of the main limitations for our users in particular not being able to utilize these solutions is that they all require a minimum level of controlled movement or verbal abilities to be able to use them. And so that leaves out a whole entire group of people who have severe physical disabilities and are non-speaking. So they don't have any solutions at all to use. And so that's where Think to Switch really provides the only solution available to them at an accessible and affordable cost, where they can use their thoughts to be able to interact and to participate. And with these existing solutions, another one of the main limitations in access is their reliance on private and public reimbursement. So that's a huge bottleneck. The reimbursement process is very slow. And so out of the over 50 million people globally who actually require these technologies to be able to interact, there's only about 40,000 people annually who get access to these technologies. So that's about 0.08% of people who are actually getting the technologies that they require.
Mm-hmm. Erica, before I move on, was there anything you wanted to add to that thread?
No, I think Dion captured everything. Yeah, I think we're positioning ourselves as serving those who have no other options, and also because we're listening to the user needs, can design a better solution for them.
Mm-hmm. And you may be focused on just this kind of the one target market that you've already outlined, but I'm intrigued to know whether you've thought through any other applications or sectors that you think that you might want to expand into or complement, as well as partnerships who might enable you to tap into those markets.
Yeah, so our main focus right now is on those who need this most for the most basic fundamental right of interaction, but we are exploring expansion into other areas, including for individuals with neurological or neurodevelopmental disabilities in general. So that includes autism spectrum disorder, ADHD, and anxiety, to really help promote that cognitive health and help promote new forms of interaction, not necessarily just relying on verbal or physical interaction, which is sometimes impaired in some of these conditions. So we're trying to create a new tool for people's toolbox, whether they are interacting verbally or physically or utilizing other types of technologies to interact. This is another tool that can enable that.
Fantastic. I look forward to following that journey ahead. And final thoughts, are there anything that you want to share, whether that's a glimpse into your future roadmap, your development journey, or anything you want to share to the community that you're building here?
Yeah, I think the most exciting thing that we have coming up is actually officially getting Think to Switch on the market and launching our pre-orders this summer. So we are gearing up for that, and we are anticipating launching 500 pre-orders. So we're excited to see what people do with Think to Switch, because as one parent put it, the possibilities are endless.
Erica, any parting words?
Yeah, I would just add to that and say, because brain-computer interfaces have lived in the research environment for a really long time, we're really excited about the opportunities of getting this to the hands of people, and the things we can learn and information we can gather about making this technology better, that we've been limited to this point because it hasn't successfully left the lab. And with our product and our approach, we'll definitely be positioned to tackle a lot of these challenges. And as a scientist, I'm very excited about that part.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we will absolutely be spreading the word, sharing, and I'm sure you have 100 more champions here today. So thank you so much for your time, and we'll be in touch shortly later on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Over to you.
Thanks, Caro. So next up, we have CELLECT Laboratories, founded and led by Ibukun Elibute and C.T. Murphy. A little bit about CELLECT. So they are transforming women's health with a non-invasive device using menstrual blood to detect cervical cancer, HPV, and more. So they're focused on making screening accessible, affordable, and comfortable, and really focusing on closing critical gaps in traditional care, as well as empowering underserved communities. So let's take a closer look at their pitch video.
1.2 billion menstruating women worldwide are at risk of HPV and cervical cancer every single year. The majority of these women would either postpone or forego the main screening method for this in their lifetime. The reason for this is what you see on the screen. This medieval-looking torture device is used to access the cervix for the collection of gynecological samples for screening of things like cervical cancer. And so it's no wonder why screening rates are shockingly low, especially among trauma-sensitive, underserved, and culturally restricted women. While self-swabs and tampon collection methods exist, they're still insertion-based and, even worse, can easily be done incorrectly, leading to unreliable results. These methods still create barriers for women who cannot and will not use them. Hi everyone, my name is Ibukun Elibute, co-founder of CELLECT, and like every woman in this room, I have wondered why screening for things such as deadly yet cervical cancer is still stuck in the dark ages. Well, good news. My team and I are here to change that. CELLECT is making the process of life-saving screening as easy as having a period. Simply use it as a stick-on with a familiar pad, send the embedded nanomaterial and the stick-on to the lab, and receive high accuracy results for conditions like HPV and cervical cancer. So how are we able to achieve this? Our secret ingredient is a patent-pending nanomaterial that is specially tuned to enhance the absorption of target cells and the DNA needed for testing while ignoring the cells that are not. Now, this nanomaterial stabilizes the sample until it reaches the lab, where it can then be extracted and analysis performed for things like early cervical cancer. Now, here's some data from our current prototype showing how our collection method yields a very high cell mass and viral DNA concentration that far surpasses the minimum required for high accuracy results with the HPV DNA assay. Now, with this, PCR amplification may not be needed, and the DNA extraction step can be skipped, leading to more efficient lab processing. As the only company worldwide approaching this problem using nanotechnology, Select is just better than the alternatives. Unlike other methods that require insertion, Select is the only one that does not fits within existing lab processing infrastructure and is applicable to a wide range of gynecological conditions. And so that explains why the market potential is so massive, $45 billion globally with a SAM of $45 million in regions with developed screening programs. And so the question is, what portion of this market can we realistically capture by 2030? After careful validation, we found that direct sale partnerships with diagnostic labs are the way to go. Now, not only do these companies have an international presence, they're also winning RFPs all across Canada for the mandate to switch to HPV DNA testing, which is compatible with Select. As a more cost-effective and convenient option, we realize we do have an edge, and we are already gaining momentum towards this. We've not only secured over 20 LOIs from clinicians, we have 2 diagnostic companies in the pipeline, and we are working towards more to ensure that we can realistically capture a significant portion of the market through screening programs by 2030, which is a classic Class 2 device timeline. But that's not our only strategy. We are able to get to the market as soon as 12 months from now as a Class 1 medical device for gynecological research. We know this because we've already secured 3 clinical partnerships to make this happen, but we need your help to get there. Panel, your 100K today will be a part of a 150K bridge round to help us complete preclinical validation, finish our prototype, and prepare for trials. Your investment via a SAFE with MFN rights will unlock an additional 150K in non-dilutive grants, hence doubling your impact. And here's why it matters. We're not just building a product. Select is creating access for women who are skipped by the system, for those who are told to just deal with it, for women whose trauma, bodies, or cultural realities don't fit with the way healthcare has been designed. Select is about choice, dignity, and inclusion in a space where those things have been ignored for far too long. And we've got the science, we've got the partnerships, and we've got the drive. And we're backed by a team of world-class advisors with experience spanning clinical to bringing a femtech device to market. I consider them the Voltron behind my co-founder, CT and I. We met about a year ago at one of University of Waterloo's incubator events, and we have since then been driven by the vision of using this cutting-edge technology to catch up on all the years that women's healthcare has fallen behind. So, help us scrap the pap with Select. Thank you.
Amazing. Welcome, Ibukun. Really great having you here today, joining us for some Q&A.
Thank you so much. I'll just give a heads up. I'm at the airport. There might be paging happening in the background. So I'll just be mute wherever I can.
No worries. You're all good. Before we jump into questions, I also just wanted to take a moment to congratulate you on all of the recent pitch competitions that you've been winning. Amazing accomplishment, and it's really exciting to see this momentum building with Select. I'm just excited to dive deeper into our conversation. I also love the way you started off your pitch calling out the medieval looking device that we all know. And so to kick off the Q&A, would love to hear more about the story behind Select and why this is a critical priority for you and CT to improve cervical cancer screening.
Yeah, so Select story actually started with my co-founder, who is the inventor of the technology. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes.
And essentially, she had a very painful pap smear experience where she was in pain for 2 days straight. And so she basically used opportunity of a fourth-year design project as a nanotechnology engineer at the University of Waterloo to develop the proof of concept for this. So what she would typically say is she created this company out of spite. And so yeah, that's really where it started. And she had the proof of concept. We had our preliminary results from the fourth-year design project, and we have since then kind of just developed it scholarship through the Waterloo Institute of Nanotechnology scholarship, and now she's developing the IP through her master's fully. And so I joined her June of last year, and just really driving the commercialization efforts. Just leveraging some of my background in health tech, in the health tech space, and something that I deeply resonate with as a woman, and just knowing how much it's been underserved for so long, and how bodily fluids like menstrual blood, the one that we're thought to collect, is the one that's not been used or explored as it should, as other bodily fluids that we use currently in the clinical space.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And so for those that are still a bit new to your technology, could you walk us through how the solution works itself after collecting the blood? Like, how does the process all look like, and how does that make it different from some of the traditional collection methods that we know of?
Yeah, for sure. So yes, and you said it correctly there. Select is a collection device, not diagnostic. We're not testing anything. So basically what happens is that it's embedded in a stick-on. I wish I had a prototype like everyone else to show, but we're not there yet. But it's embedded in a stick-on. We put it on a commercial pad. After use, you remove the nanomaterial embedded in the stick-on into a vial, take that, put that into a biohazard bag, that goes to the lab. And then at the lab, it's exactly the same process, if not more efficient, than the processes that are used to process, samples that are collected from the speculum, for example. So if I could go over it briefly, if it was collected through a speculum, the sample essentially needs to be lysed, extract the DNA extracted, PCR amplification done before amplifying, before then applying the HPV DNA assay. With Select, it's a very simple process of just eluting the cells because it would already been lysed on the nanomaterial, and then applying the HPV DNA assay. So we're really coming not only as an advantage to the women, but also as an advantage to the diagnostic labs and diagnostic companies, essentially just increasing their reach.
Mm-hmm. And just based on what you just shared, I think one thing that I really love and want to highlight about your solution is the impact that can also create within like underserved and remote communities, as you've mentioned in your pitch video. And so like it still remains a significant barrier, the screening itself for many of these remote communities today. So how do you perceive and how do you see your solution bridging these gaps, and what kind of impact are you hoping to create both nationally and globally as well?
Yeah, this is a great question. So I think basically when you talk about underserved communities, there are so many issues where it's like access to just where you would actually go collect in the traditional method, right? So a lot of these remote areas wouldn't have such facilities. So this would enable that at home convenience of collecting. There's also the case of people who gender diverse individuals, people with cultural sensitivities, who would just not have any sort of insertion whatsoever, whether it's a speculum or self swab. And so we're really just expanding the options that are available to people who just wouldn't do any screening whatsoever because of the current methods. When we talk about globally, there's a huge case of cervical cancer in sub-Saharan Africa. And so one of the things we're looking at is working with NGO pilot programs to essentially run pilots through these regions, right? With very severe cervical cancer cases, because everyone is on that trying to figure out how we are able to just work on better accessibility for these communities.
Incredible. Thanks for sharing. And finally, I'd love to also just make some space for you to see if there's anything that you'd like to share, about the road ahead for Select, if there's anything in particular about your roadmap, any new things in the pipeline, either here, at the finale and beyond?
Yeah, for sure. One of the things we're super excited for is just wrapping up our preclinical validation. We're looking at having that done by September of this year, and then that would unlock the next phase for us, which is essentially building our full prototype, because up until now it's been the sub prototype, just working on nanomaterial. And so we want to be able to do the full design, and then start working with research labs that we've already been in contact with. So beyond HPV and cervical cancer, we've been seeing a need with research labs that are doing gynecological research. One of the huge ones are out of Hamilton Health Sciences, where they're really excited for how we're able to collect high quality gynecological samples the way we are, because the opportunities are limitless in terms of research. Several under researched areas in women's health, like endometriosis and PCOS and the likes. This could be a big game changer, and I think beyond just HPV and cervical cancer, I'm really excited for what more we're able to facilitate with this platform technology.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Ibikun, for joining us today. And if I'm not mistaken, you're on your way to Houston for another competition. Is that correct?
Yes, this is correct.
Amazing. Well,
Yeah.
Best of luck with the competition. Have a safe flight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really great having you here today, and really looking forward to what's next for Select.
Thank you.
Another incredible game-changing invention. Right. Okay. This is the final pitch of today's event, and it's time to hear from our last top 5 founder. Just a quick reminder, you'll have the chance to vote for your favorite ventures for the People's Choice Awards. So if you haven't been making notes, please do. And now I'd like to introduce Fem Therapeutics. So it's founded and led by Inara Lalani and Nagin Ashwari, and they're developing an Invisalign for gynecology. So they're using AI and 3D printing to create the world's first customizable pessary for women with pelvic floor disorders. I'm going to hand over to their presentation to share more about this game changer.
My name is Inara Lalani, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Fem Therapeutics, and we're personalizing pelvic medicine for women. 1 in every 2 women will develop pelvic organ prolapse at some stage in their life due to the weakening in pelvic floor muscles, and it involves the descent of the uterus, bladder, or rectum down the vaginal canal, drastically affecting a woman's quality of life. Current treatment methods involve surgical intervention or non-surgical options, such as the use of a pessary, which is what you can see on the right. These devices are intended to support the pelvic floor muscles and are used 90% of the time as the first line of treatment. However, success rates are far and few. Pessaries are the gold standard when it comes to prolapse treatment. They come in over 100 different shapes and sizes and are fitted by a provider through prescriptions. However, the current pessary model just doesn't work. The average cost of pessary treatment in the first year is approximately $4,000, and 50% of women will fail pessary use within the first year due to poor fit. Now let's talk about convenience. On average, it takes approximately 3 to 6 months to see a urogynecologist in the US. And once pessaries are fitted, patients typically require seeing their provider once every 2 to 3 months to remove, clean, and reinsert their device due to a lack of finger dexterity. Annually, $2 billion is spent on managing prolapse in the US alone, and that too without any compelling success. And that's why we created Fem Therapeutics. Our vision is to provide a more effective, personalized devices for common pelvic health conditions, starting with prolapse, meeting you where you need the most support. I co-founded Fem Therapeutics with my colleagues Nagin, who is a software engineer, and Dr. Gangle, a practicing urogynecologist, during my undergrad at McGill, where I spent over 6 months at the hospital completing rotations and saw a huge gap in precision with the way we treated women's health conditions. Long story short, we set out to achieve what we deemed was impossible and created the first personalized pessary for prolapse. Since then, we've expanded our team to include 3 talented engineers and a robust advisory board that includes the president of the America's Urogynecology Society. We've developed the first pelvic health platform that offers over-the-counter devices that can be personalized to fit your comfort and support needs. Simply fill out our short intake form, tell us about your symptoms, medical history, and lifestyle needs, and receive a personalized kit directly to your door. Beyond that, our platform also provides instructions for users to self-diagnose, self-select, and fit our pessaries from anywhere they want, decentralizing prolapse care just like the stress urinary incontinence market decades ago. To build a model similar to Hims and Hers, Femme Therapeutics is building a brand that consumers can trust and is backed by clinical expertise and validated results. We have novel technology that is FDA regulated, and we also have a tech-enabled platform that continues to study and learn from our users' backgrounds and needs, allowing us to collect more insights into future product development and R&D. We're launching with our first product, which is the first ever over-the-counter solution for prolapse. We've created a single-use pessary that can be supported through personalized inflation, offering maximum support without compromising on comfort or convenience. The device also features an applicator for compact insertion and a tube that allows for users to tug at it for removal at home. Prolapse care has never been made more easier without compromising on results. We have rigorously tested our solution in simulations, benchtop models, and in women. In fact, 10 women are currently wearing our device, where 100% of them have said our device is more comfortable than their current pessary and resolves their symptoms of prolapse. Our solutions were built with medical expertise and will undergo extensive clinical validation testing at 3 sites in the US within the next 4 months. Our device is able to treat the most complex of prolapse cases, including stage 4 prolapse, by providing maximum support to those who need it. These devices are personalized to each individual based on air inflation, and most importantly, will be made over the counter, where every pessary currently requires a prescription to access. Our pessary will be made available direct to consumer through online sales and strategic partnerships. An annual supply will cost $400 with a 70% margin, and we just received confirmation that our devices will be HSA FSA eligible as well. Beyond direct to consumer, we will also explore retail partnerships and clinical referrals to drive lower customer acquisition costs. With a portfolio of over 10 patents filed and $2 million signed in pilot agreements with large health systems, we're currently working on completing external validation testing to then file for FDA 510(k) clearance for our Class 2 medical device in less than 6 months. To date, we've raised $4 million from non-dilutive funding sources and backing from top venture capital firms, including 2048 Ventures, the 51 Ventures, and hospital foundations. We just opened up a $2 million C2 round on a safe, and we're already 45% committed. We're looking forward to bringing on Spring as an investor to support the closing of our round. We're Femme Therapeutics, and we help women take back control of their bodies. Thank you.
Welcome, Inara. That was a powerful pitch, and I'm just inspired by the opportunity to self-diagnose, fit, and have an over-the-counter option. That's, yeah, incredible.
Thank you so much.
I would love to understand a bit more about this space. And so you had the competitive landscape slide, but I'd love to understand a bit more about what differentiates you. You mentioned your incredible product design, obviously expert team, really focusing on the experience and then the routes to market. But I just would love to give you space to really zoom in on where you say your unique value proposition is.
Absolutely. I think when you listen to women after they've had a vaginal childbirth or just, have gone through aging and menopause, they typically complain of leaks. I think that is super, super common. We hear that in 1 in every 2 women. But I think the focus and the current attention with the solutions on the market are less so on prolapse and more so on incontinence. There's less of an emphasis around providing structural support once ligamental support is lost. And that's why we set out to solve this very underserved market and probably pitching a solution for a problem that many of you probably didn't even know existed. But again, with the prevalence rates 1 in every 2 women, it's extremely, extremely common. And when you look at the devices specifically on the market to treat prolapse, everything is super outdated. I mean, the pessaries date back to the Egyptians. The shapes haven't changed. The only thing that's changed is we've gone from using corks to using something made out of silicone. So there just hasn't been a lot of innovation in this space. And that's why, the work that we're doing here is not only trying to provide something that has a higher structural support, but is also going to allow for higher patient adherence to prevent those surgeries from happening in the first place and to restore autonomy to these patients that essentially could move, could walk, could do all these things before they were burdened with this condition.
Mm-hmm. I'm blown away that you said 1 in 2 women have pelvic organ prolapse. How is this not discussed more? Is it just taboo? I mean, I know women who've gone through childbirth and it's debilitating in so many ways. So tell me, why is this not?
Yeah, I wish I could give you a a straightforward answer. I think stigma is a really big thing. It's already taken us so long to start talking about things like sexual health and menstruation and leaks, incontinence, things like that. And then when you start thinking about, your organs falling out because you've lost ligamental support, it just becomes so intimate, and it's a condition that majority of these women often face and endure just in silence. And they also have a really difficult time speaking up and addressing it with their providers as well, with the fear that their providers may potentially dismiss them, because ultimately, when you go in to see a family doctor, they may not be able to diagnose you with prolapse. It may take the point of you seeing a urogynecologist to get a diagnosis like this. And so that's why majority of these women end up just finding solutions online and self-treating themselves and never really getting a solution that works for them. So I wish I could give you a more straightforward answer, but it is, I would say, highly associated to the stigma.
Well, I think, and hats off to you for having this conversation out loud in the public, creating a channel to market that is going to be over the counter and a lot more accessible, so you can kind of overcome some of that stigma, as you say.
Absolutely.
You're working in a regulatory environment, so I'd love to understand your progress to date. It sounds like you have great momentum there. Can you share a bit more around the regulatory landscape you're navigating?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've conducted 2 meetings with the FDA and 1 meeting with Health Canada. These were our pre-submission meetings to essentially outline what our regulatory pathway would look like, what predicate devices we would follow, and what our testing plan would be in the next 6 months. So that really helped us essentially put together what the next steps look like, and have given us very, very concrete steps to follow. And so for us, we're a Class 2 medical device, 510(k) pathway for the FDA. But again, not to scare you, tampons fall under this class as well. So we are, a device that's inserted into the body, but we are non-invasive. And so the review periods for a device like this is really somewhere between 90 days, 60 to 90 days.
Okay, so some milestones quite soon ahead. Any parting words, anything you want to share in terms of, your roadmap ahead, how we can help shift that narrative around women's health?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a privilege to, share these last 2 hours with the other female founders, especially those that are also trying to innovate in the women's health space. So really excited about just the work that is going to be released in the market in the next couple of years. And I mean, and specifically with our device as well, we're targeting market launch in the States in less than 8 months. So finally, after 4.5 years of working on this solution, we're really excited to see the light at the end of the tunnel and start selling these devices across North America. So
yeah, so true. I hope that, we will be here for you going forward, but also that you now have a community of other health tech and femtech founders as well to lean on and share with.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So best of luck in that journey ahead.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Hello.
Amazing. So, it's been such a pleasure hearing from all top 5 finalists today. One of my favorite parts of the finales, ever since I started joining Spring's finales in the past few years, is seeing how the company pitches have evolved over time from day 1 of the program till today, especially having, after having a lot of great conversations with the investor cohort during due diligence, that can really support approaching things from a different lens. So I think it's just a great way to kind of move into the next segment of today's finale event. So the polls are now officially open, and it's now everyone's chance to cast your vote for the People's Choice Award. So please feel free to take a moment to reflect on the pitches and choose the one that resonated with you the most. So we'll just spend a few seconds on the slide for you to scan the QR code and vote for your favorite pitch. And while we're tallying up the votes behind the scenes, we will also soon announce the winner of the People's Choice Award, as well as, most notably, after a lot of deliberation with our investors, we'll also be announcing the top venture of this year's Invest Together program. So once again, please do scan the QR code to vote. In the meantime, as we're waiting for your votes, we'll be sharing some exciting things going on in the world of Spring.
Wonderful. Yeah, this is the rare time where we encourage you to get out your phone and be distracted. So our Invest Together in Women-Led Impact ends tonight, but we have a lineup of amazing events and programs coming up. some of which you can access through this QR code on our website, some of which we're going to be sharing through LinkedIn newsletters. So obviously sign up, like, subscribe, all the things. Stay in touch because we have a lot of exciting things coming up.
And tonight isn't also just a celebration of the end of this year's Invest Together program, as well as our top 5 finalists. It's also about keeping the momentum going. And so we're very excited to drop our Raise and Rise podcast series tonight as well, in collaboration with BDC, hosted by Alison Gibson and Emma Rimber. The series has been really thoughtfully designed for Black women founders. We have 3 very engaging episodes filled with very great entrepreneurship advice and insights. So there's definitely something for everyone to learn from. So please do check out the series on YouTube. We'll be dropping that in the link, and you have another QR code on your screen as well. We'd love to hear what you think as well after seeing the series.
Yeah, I'm so excited for that to launch, and we'll be sharing this also in follow-up emails. And that really was hats off also to BDC Thrive Lab, Severine LaBelle, for having the vision and creativity to work with Alison and Emma on bringing that to life. So this is a new approach that we're really looking forward to sharing with you. And it's a time for the investors to share with other investors why they invested. So what we'll do is on April 24th, you'll hear pitch videos from recent Invest Togethers, the top ventures, including several of those from today's event. And members of their due diligence teams will be there, really to share why they invested in the company, a bit more of the insights behind the scenes, and be there for open and honest questions to get their point of view on these companies. The event is for accredited investors, and unsurprisingly, we're hoping to ultimately grow the amount of money we can catalyze even into these amazing ventures. Okay. So, reflecting on today's pitches before we have the People's Choice announced soon. I know that's going to be tallied in the background, and then they'll share the slides. I'm just blown away by how many healthcare ventures there have been in this space. As I mentioned before, this was an open call for all women-led ventures across Canada. And what we've seen was 9 out of the 15 originally were in healthcare, and then the 5 top ventures tonight, which I think is just really testament to Canada's potential and investment in early stage R&D in this space. So I think this is a longer journey for some of those ventures, as they've talked about the regulatory approval, the prototyping journey, a lot of the hardware that goes into it alongside the software that some of them are building. But it really is the space where angel investment and that early stage support is so fundamental.
Absolutely.
So I think we have the People's Choice Award coming soon. And so this has been voted by all of you, your favorite, no criteria set. Ultimately, it's a come all in terms of who was most impactful and inspiring from your point of view. Okay. That's coming up soon. We can see it happening in the background. Okay, wonderful. Drum roll, please. The People's Choice Award winner is Fem Therapeutics. Congratulations, Anara and Nagin. Huge congratulations. You have been voted by the audience here today as the most impactful, the inspiring venture that they were excited to support. And so next I'm going to hand over to Natalie for the moment we've been waiting for.
Yeah. So before we share the 2025 top venture for today, just want to take a moment to say that over the past several weeks, this incredible cohort of investors have engaged in such thoughtful discussions. They've built such great relationships with their founders and their due diligence groups, and they've really explored such bold ideas from exceptional women-led ventures. And so it's really now time to highlight the announcement for this year's top venture, and they will be receiving the pooled cohort of investment of at least $85K, with the total expected to grow in the coming weeks. So if you are an accredited investor, this is really the time to join us and get in touch. Our past track record with our previous top ventures has shown a doubling in the investment post finale. And we'd love to invite any credit investors in joining this journey alongside our current spring cohort. So following careful deliberation and a lot of great conversations behind the scenes, the decision has been made by the cohort, and I'm very honored to reveal that the top venture of this year's Women-Led Invest Together program is, drumroll please, also Fem Therapeutics. Amazing. We'd love to now invite Inara to join us on back on the main stage to share a few words about how she's feeling about this well-deserved win.
Oh my gosh, I was not expecting that at all. Super, super grateful. Thank you so much to the cohort of investors that spent the last 6 weeks learning about our business and bearing with us as we got their answers to their questions, and as they continue to dive deeper. Learned so much throughout this process just on trying to, again, position our business beyond just the initial impact that we thought we were driving, which was the gender equity and, trying to drive innovation in women's health, but also what goes on regarding accessibility and all these other features that I think we've had the opportunity to dive in a lot deeper over the last couple of weeks. So super, super grateful. Thank you again to the Spring team for such an incredible program, and congrats to the other 14 companies as well for getting to this point as well. Thank you.
Huge congratulations. And as we said before, we appreciate this is just one milestone, like opening the door and continuing your raise. Our intent very much is to grow how much you raise, how fast you raise, and your trajectory from here on in. So we absolutely look forward to supporting you with what's next. And as I said, I think that there's some sort of magic connections and learning from peers. So looking forward to also to support that community to thrive together going forward.
Absolutely. Big congrats, Inara. Thank you so much. We'll be in touch with next steps shortly.
Brilliant.
Wow, amazing. So as we're bringing together today's finale to a close, I just want to once again just extend a very heartfelt thank you to everyone who's joined us today. A huge congratulations to our top venture, Fem Therapeutics, but also all of our top 5 finalists. We had Maman Biomedical, led by Lakshmi Raghunanan, LMD, led by Jennifer Johnston, Possibility Neurotechnologies, led by Dion Kelly and Erica Floriani, and Select Laboratories, led by Ibukun Elibute and CT Murphy. So very, very big congrats for the rest of the founders as well. As we're wrapping up, we'd also love to hear from you on how today's finale went. So we do have a quick QR code on your screen right now.
Yeah. And I think, I've said it several times already, but it's definitely worth repeating, is that all of these top 5 ventures have gone through that incredible due diligence process. You heard directly from them what amazing work they're doing, and they're all raising now. So we will be sharing their details shamelessly and connecting investors and other supporters to them to help them on this journey. And as we've often found and heard from previous ventures, that this is just the start. We have a kind of a ripple effect here on in. So I look forward to working with each of you on supporting these top 5 ventures. And I also want to give a final thank you. So we mentioned our partners, the incredible enabling funding from ICED and the WIN VC project, from NRC IRAP, and a number of different corporate partners that have been there from inception and are still joining us. So really appreciate their support in making this possible, because it is an incredible amount of work behind the scenes to get to here. And also all of you, the investor cohort, the advisors, the speakers, and all of you across the ecosystem, because it does take a village. Not to take away from the incredible work of the founders, but it just is an ecosystem-wide approach to supporting these founders on various steps of their journey, and also the investors to start activating more capital. So I've definitely been inspired by the game-changing innovations being shared today. And we look forward to hearing your feedback and how we can continue to evolve and improve.
And so, as mentioned, if you're interested in joining our Why We Invested event on April 23rd, where we'll be showcasing some of these top ventures, please do stay in touch and register through the link in the chat that will be shared shortly. Caroline, myself, as well as the wider Spring team are very happy to continue this conversation with you as well. And lastly, for anyone interested in learning more about Spring and exploring ways to get involved, whether as a founder, an investor, an ecosystem partner, or collaborator, please feel free to visit our website or get in touch with anyone on the team to discover some great collaboration opportunities. We're always excited to have some new conversations with folks. But overall, thank you once again for being part of this incredible evening, depending on where you're joining us from, and for celebrating our top 5 finalists together today. We really look forward to seeing you at our next event and wishing you all a wonderful rest of your evening. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. Thank you, Natalie.
Thanks, Caro.